My name is Leah Beck. I'm a University of Illinois Extension Master Gardener with Kane County, and we're going to talk about growing microgreens out of your home. Microgreens are really rewarding things to grow out of your home because they're quick growing, they grow very quickly, and it's something that you can do in your home all year long. And they are really beautiful and delicious greens that you can eat. They're very nutrient dense. The nutrients are very concentrated in these, so it's something that's very healthy. Microgreens are something that you can grow year-round, every month of the year out of your home. So we're going to talk about the things that you need, and the things that you need are really basic things that you can find around your house, very common items. So we're going to talk about the seeds, what types of seeds you need, and the quantity of seed that you're going to need, what type of a growing container you need, what type of a growing medium you need, and what your lighting, temperature, and moisture requirements are to grow microgreens. So microgreens are very quick growing. In general, you can get a microgreen harvest, depending on what you grow, within 15 to 22 days. So you're going to need a lot of seed. Microgreens are very seed intensive. So if you have a seed pack around your house, a traditional size, common size seed pack, the seed quantity that's included in a seed pack such as this is not going to be adequate for you to really grow a significant amount of microgreens. You're going to need larger quantities of seed. So there's different types of seed. There's seeds that grow very quickly and very easily that you get a harvest in about probably 15 days. And examples of those types of seeds include arugula, kale, broccoli, mustard greens, bok choy, Asian greens, radish. You can even grow flowers. So nasturtium flowers, the greens from nasturtium flowers are very peppery and delicious on food, and they grow quite quickly as well. There's other seeds that are well adapted to growing microgreens. They just are a little bit slower to grow. And examples of those types of seeds includes things such as sunflower seed, pea seed, beet seed, Swiss chard seed, spinach, cabbage. They're a little bit slower to grow, but still perfectly suited for growing microgreens. So you will see that some seeds are quite large and some are quite small. So in general, the smaller seed, such as this is radish seed. This grows much more quickly than some of your larger seed, such as pea seed. Now, if you want to grow some of those seeds that are a little bit slower growing, such as sunflower seeds or pea seeds, to kind of jumpstart the growing process, you can soak that seed for 6 to 24 hours before planting. And that'll help break down that tough seed coat and make it germinate that much quicker. So if you want to do that, that's certainly an option to jumpstart your growing process, is to do that, to soak it. Get creative around seed. I have sunflower seed here. They're really delicious to grow. They're quite a sturdy green. You can saute them. And this is sunflower seed that I saved from the sunflowers that I grew in my home garden last year. You can see I have a lot of seed chaff in there, but the seed itself, I get a lot of seed and I'm able to grow a lot of microgreens. So because it is so seed intensive, get creative about how you get your seed and where you get your seed. So seed types we've talked about. Now your containers that you're going to grow in. I like to upset cycle containers that I have around the house. There is certainly no need for you to purchase special containers to grow your microgreens. You can use produce containers that you may have saved from some of the groceries that you've bought around your house. So here's an example of a storage container I have. It's about 1 inch deep. And this is an ideal size for growing microgreens. What's really important is you want to make sure that you have some drainage holes in the bottom of the container. This is really important to have drainage holes so that the moisture can drain out. So this one is about 1 inch deep. I also have an example of some greens I'm growing here, and this container is about 2.5 inches deep. I would not go any larger than 2.5 inches deep. That would be about the maximum depth of a container that I would use. So anywhere from like 1 to 2 inches deep, or 2.5 inches deep, is a good size growing container. Make sure you have holes in the bottom. If you have some containers around the house without holes in them, you can easily and safely, be very careful doing this, take a nail and poke some holes in the bottom of a container, or you could use a scissors to put some holes in the bottom of a container so that you have some drainage in your container. So get creative, find things around the house for your growing containers. So next consideration is your growing medium. I prefer to use a soilless growing mix, and I make my own mix, but you can certainly purchase commercially soilless potting mixes. This is a very light and friable mix. There's no soil in here. My ratio for my growing medium, I use about 50% peat moss, 25% perlite, and 25% vermiculite. And it makes it very light growing medium. Again, you can purchase commercially available soilless potting mixes, and that would be adequate as well. Now, you can use a commercially available potting soil, but just a word of caution on a commercially available potting soil. It's very difficult to find potting soil that there hasn't been added chemicals or fertilizers to the soil mix. And just be cognizant of the fact that you're growing food that you want to eat in this medium, and that you want to make sure that you don't take in chemicals unnecessarily or fertilizers unnecessarily. And because these microgreens grow so quickly, their needs for fertilizers are very minimal. They really don't need it because they grow so quickly. So put about 1 inch deep of the soilless potting mix in your potting container. Okay. So then the next consideration, or the next thing that we need to do after we have our potting mix in there, is to plant our seed. Now, this container that I have here is approximately 7 inches by 7 inches in the size is 7 by 7 inches. So for this size of a container, if I wanted to grow a small seed, I'm going to need somewhere between 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of seed. If I'm going to use one of my larger seeds, say I'm going to use pea seed, this requires a 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of seed to get a good coverage. The seed goes on very densely. So for our purposes today, I'm particularly fond of radish. I like the flavor of radish. I like what it does to food. I'm going to plant some radish seed. So this is a 1 teaspoon measure that I have here. So I'm going to take my seed and I'm going to distribute it around my growing medium. And I've taken about 1 teaspoon of seed, but I can tell by looking at this seed that I'm going to need about another half teaspoon. So I'm taking roughly a half teaspoon more seed, and I'm sprinkling it around on my growing medium. So that's it. That's how you plant. Now, we don't cover up this seed. In traditional planting methods, you would cover up this seed with some of your potting mix. But because microgreens grow so quickly, we don't need to do that. It takes a lot of effort for the seed to grow through the soil or the soilless mix on top, and we want to shortcut that process. So we just leave this seed right on top of the soilless mix. And then after you got your seed on the soilless mix, take a board or something you can find around the house, and you want to tamper that seed down. What you're really trying to do is to get really good contact between the seed and the potting mix. So you just want to tap that down and compress the seed into the soil mix. So now let's talk about moisture requirements. So right after we plant the seed and until we germinate it, we want to mist the top of the potting mix. So I'm going to spray this nice and well, so that I get it nice and moist on the top. And I'm going to do this every day until the seeds germinate. So you want to check your moisture levels every day and make sure that it's very moist on the top. That feels really nice and moist to me. Do that daily until your seed begins to germinate. That's how our moisture requirements are taken care of until we see germination, which could be, depending on the seed, 3 to 5 days before it germinates. So check it daily and spray daily so that you have a nice moist on the top. Now to germinate, most seeds don't require light. So you can put this on top of your refrigerator or anywhere in your house. It doesn't have to have intensive light for it to germinate. So you can set that anywhere, check the moisture daily. Now after it germinates and gets to growing, and this one's further, this example that I have is further along than just germination, but it's still immature and it's still not available, or not ready, mature and ready to harvest. So this one, when it's at this, once you get germination, the way you handle your water is you have it in some type of a tray or a container, and you want to water just into that container. I'm not watering on top of the soilless mix itself. I'm just watering into that container. And you want to check the water every day. You want to have a little bit of water on the bottom, and have a little bit of water so that it can suck up that water. But you don't want to have standing water or pooling water or have it sitting in water all day, every day. It should dry out after every day. A real good test to see if you have enough moisture or not is if you lift your container of microgreens. If it's very light and you don't feel any weight to it, it's probably too dry, and that's an indication that you're going to need some more moisture. So check your water every day, water from the bottom, don't overwater, but if it's too light and feels, like there's not enough, it's retaining any moisture, add some more water to it. So that's how we water. Our lighting requirements. So the nice thing about microgreens, because they don't go through a full plant life cycle, we're going to harvest these at an immature stage. Because of that, they are really tolerant of less than ideal growing conditions. So we don't have to have perfect light, and we don't have to have perfect temperatures for these to grow. So for lighting, you could set your microgreens after they germinate into a south-facing sunny window and leave them in a south-facing sunny window. That's very adequate. You could also use a fluorescent bulb or put an LED bulb under on top. Put your microgreens under an LED bulb or fluorescent. You want to keep the light fairly close though, probably about 3 inches above the top of the microgreens is where your light would be. So it's really very close if you're going to use that type of light. But since we're in April, you certainly couldn't do this in winter months, but we're having nice afternoons, sunny afternoons with very mild temperatures. You could also set your microgreens outside into a sunny location in the afternoons to get some light there. Wherever you put your microgreens, whether you do it in a south-facing window, whether you do it under fluorescent LED lighting, or if you have it outside, you want to give them about 8 to 12 hours of light per day. That should be very adequate for your lighting. So it could, like I said, it can be tolerant of less than ideal conditions. Your temperature requirements, ideal temperature requirements are air temperature of about 70 to 75 degrees. But again, it can be they're very tolerant if your temperatures aren't in that range. It's very tolerant of less than ideal growing conditions. That is one of the really nice things about microgreens, that they're very forgiving because they're harvested at such a young age. We're not asking the plant or the seed to grow to a mature stage, so they can be tolerant of less than ideal growing conditions. So keep your temperatures, try to keep it at around 70, 75 if possible. That's ideal. And then leave these for probably anywhere from 15 to 22 to 25 days. Once your microgreens get to be about 2 to 3 inches tall, which is where I'm at right now, you're ready to harvest your microgreens. You can take a scissors and cut the microgreens off, and cut them off at so they're about 2 to 3 inches long. You wash them and then you enjoy them. Some nice ways to eat microgreens include, you can put them and toss them in with a salad. You can put them on top of a soup. If you have a rice bowl or a grain bowl, they're very delicious on those as well. If you grow some of the sturdier greens, so radish is pretty. This is radish that I have here. This is a pretty tender green. This is kale. Kale is a very tender green. But when I grow pea seeds or sunflower seeds, those are a little bit sturdier type of a green. And that microgreen can withstand sauteing them if you want to saute them, or you can even eat them as a standalone salad drizzle some olive oil, some lemon juice, some salt and pepper on it, and you can eat it as a standalone salad. So just think about when you're planting your seed, how you want to eat them and how you want to enjoy them, and what flavors might be complementary to the foods that you want to eat them with. It's time to get growing.